Hello everyone and welcome to another episode here on my F1 22 modded Myteam career mode. If you did miss last episode at the Canadian Grand Prix, be sure to go check that one out. We're a pretty fun race, kinda brought back down to earth a little bit, and we got more of an idea where his car actually is when all the top guys aren't retiring and DNFing. But we start things off filling out the activity timeline as per usual, nothing new there. And we're going to look at his R&D real quick. We have a chassis upgrade incoming with the roll dampers. That's going to improve his tyre wear. We have a rear downforce upgrade coming in terms of aerodynamics. And I think we actually have an ERS upgrade on the way. But we're going to go ahead and purchase another weight reduction upgrade. That's going to obviously make the car a lot lighter. And yeah, hopefully push forward. If you're not going forwards, you're going backwards. In terms of the standings then, we're in P6 in the constructors, P9 in the drivers with those points paying positions. But as we move forward, we've got one of these department events, and we have an option. We can get some second driver acclaim, but it will take away his focus or lose acclaim and improve his racecraft actually. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'd rather have a bit of racecraft for the second driver rather than acclaim. But we come in as tyre wear upgrade does come in. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to afford another upgrade. We don't have a whole load of resource points going spare after we bought that pretty expensive weight reduction upgrade. We don't have an ERS upgrade coming in. I didn't actually purchase it, but maybe when we get us weekly resources, we might be able to afford something else.
Our new parts have completed,
so we can just skip forward again to get the rear downforce upgrade. So that's going to come in for Silverstone, where you need quite a balanced setup really. So the downforce is going to be quite helpful. We can now afford the ERS upgrade, so we're going to go ahead and get that. Looking quite strong on the engine side of things actually. I'm not sure where we stand on the other aspects of the car, but I'm sure we'll find out when we have a look at the performance comparison going into the Grand Prix. Speaking of which, let's have a quick look at that then, where Toyota actually bring massive upgrades into Silverstone and just kind of overtake us, and then Jaguar actually pull right ahead of Audi Sauber. Yeah, again, it's tough to see Jaguars with the colour of their line, but yeah, they're actually up there. But we go into qualifying then. This is Q1 at the end for our kind of last flying lap of the session here at Silverstone, the home Grand Prix, one of my favourite tracks on the game, and we'll see what we can do then. I've gone ahead and done a couple of banker laps as I normally do. A little bit of a squirm of oversteer there coming onto the straight. We're not too out of shape. The delta is going down. We are up by about half a tenth as we come into the Luffield section then, and we go for a wide line and try and take a late apex, but I think I took the apex a little bit too late. And once again, as deltas goes down a bit, it's still around half a tenth up, and beautiful corner there, just going a little bit wide there, where the FIA seem to think that's alright. It's all good as we come into the Maggots and Beckett's section, one of the best bits of racetrack in the world in my opinion. I absolutely love the flow. You kind of slam it down the gear, turn it in, slam it down another gear, throw it to the other side. It's just an amazing piece of racetrack. But we continue then as we come round Stowe into the final couple of corners. We're nearly half a tenth up. We lose a little bit on entry, but gain on exit, and then we absolutely bottle it on pretty much the last corner of the lap. So that's quite annoying. But like I said, we did do a couple of banker laps, and that were enough for P17 on the grid, so not getting into Q2, but with that, let's go into the Grand Prix.
We return once again then to the home of British motorsport and the birthplace of the Formula One World Championship. It's race day here at Silverstone, and it's time for the British Grand Prix. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of Silverstone circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula One. It's been reinvented over the years, with Turn 1 now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Hamilton, Carlos Sainz and Perez, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Ocon and Pierre Gasly, Bottas, Vettel, Guan Yu Zhou and Mick Schumacher, Stroll, Evans, Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen, Latifi, Nissany, Tsunoda and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway.
So we're elevated up a position into P16 on the grid now. In terms of strategy, we're just going to do the one stop. The actual default strategy is to start on the hards and then go to the mediums. I do like to do that sometimes, so if they think that's the quicker way of going, then we might as well give it a shot. We're down in P16, so we need to try something to drag us up the grid, but we'll wait for those 5 red lights to go out and away we go then for the British Grand Prix. And we have a bit of a bog down on the start and a couple of cars go past, and we kind of have to hit the brakes a little bit to avoid going into the back of Latifi, but we come into Farm and we can nip back up the inside of him and see if we can make some positions early on. Down in P19 at the minute, so we did lose out on a couple as we try and nip round the outside of Magnussen, but that's not quite going to work for us as Latifi goes back up the inside, and then we've got Tsunoda flying past as well. So these hard tyres at the start of the race, really not ideal. And I've only just noticed there that we actually have a worn gearbox, and while I'm distracted by that, Albon comes round and he nips it up the inside, and just like that, once again on lap 1 we're right at the back of the grid. So my race starts are pretty diabolical in the first half of this season, and even as teammates having a go at us now, but we manage just to hold on. Then as we come into Maggots and Beckett's, we're just going to completely basically claim the racing line and give my teammate nowhere to go, which bit cruel maybe, but yeah, we move forward in the race and we can look at catching back up to Albon and the Williams. And I think there's Tsunoda up there as well, this kind of rival as we come into Farm on lap 2 this is. And a little bit of contact up in front of us as we nip just up the inside of Albon, quite cheekily there, get the move done. But as we come round the left-hander, Albon, he just takes us out of the race, he just turns in on us like we're not even there. Let's have another look from his point of view here. He sees me go up the inside, I'm still there, give him just about enough space, and then he just jerks the steering wheel left and completely wipes me out. So now we are at the back of the grid and we have a bit of catching up to do. Albon's AI in this series, we saw it in the first race at Brazil, he's just a madman, absolutely crazy guy. But I'll update you on the race then. You've got Verstappen leading after he must have overtaken the pole sitter George Russell in the Mercedes monster car. And then behind him you've got Charles Leclerc in a bit of a Mercedes sandwich with Lewis Hamilton behind him, the home favourite of course, who's in a Ferrari sandwich himself with Carlos Sainz behind him. And then it's Lando Norris up in P6 in the Vodafone McLaren Mercedes. He'll be looking to try and score some good points. Then it's Perez, Gasly doing quite well in the Jaguar up in P8, and then it's Alonso in P9, and then Sebastian Vettel in the Toyota up in P10, so he's doing pretty well also, but it looks like he's got a bit of a train forming behind him, and Bottas looking very close in that Audi Sauber car. And as we come towards the end of lap 4, it looks like Bottas is going to make the move into Stowe, and that's going to be Bottas upper position, and Vettel unfortunately out the points, and he's got that Renault Vocon behind him as well, who's going to be pretty quick, so it's going to be a tough race, I think. But as we go on to lap 5 then, we've got Lando Norris once again in P6. He's got DRS open, looking very close to his old pal Carlos Sainz, and once again he's going to go up the inside of Stowe, and that's going to be that McLaren Mercedes upper position into P5. And yeah, Sainz, all Sainz can really do there is tuck in behind and wait for his next opportunity. Meanwhile, here's Alonso. He's looking to make a move up. Pierre Gasly's inside. And yeah, once again, the AI loving that move there around Stowe. So that's Alonso up into P8. He really needs to score some points, as he's falling behind actually in this championship. So that's going to be important for him. But as we go on to lap 8, we've caught back up to his teammate at least in P21. We had quite a gap there after Albon punted us off. But we're going to kind of follow this trend that the AI is setting, with the DRS open on the run down into Stowe down. I think this is the Dunlop Straight. I think I know they have two different names, the two straights, but I think that's the Dunlop Straight into Stowe, and we got the move done nicely on his teammate Roy Nissany then, and we can go chasing back after Albon, Stroll, Latifi. They're all on medium tyres though, so it's going to be a bit of an ask, but they're bunched up a bit together, so we should be able to take advantage of that. As we do on lap 10, we've got that man Albon ahead of us, and we're going to have to be very careful with him because he seems to be driving quite aggressively, but we send it up the inside. We kind of match his aggression with a bit of aggression of his own, going round the outside then. I'm watching his every move because I don't trust Albon at all, but we managed to get the move done. Back up into P20 now, and we have a yellow flag as Valtteri Bottas goes out of the session in that Audi Sauber car, so that's unfortunate for him. But we move forward once again in this race, onto lap 11, kind of putting the pressure on Lance Stroll there. I tried a bit of a late lunge on him, maybe to try and scare him off the track a bit, didn't quite work. But there's Albon in the pits then, so I think the medium tyre runners on lap 11, they're going to be looking to come into the pits, as we still go chasing after Latifi and Lance Stroll. We should be ahead of these guys really. I mean, the Toyota did overtake us on the performance chart, but I still think we've got the pace at least to get past Stroll, as we do a massive dive bomb into Farm. He's going to come back at us. It's side by side still, as we managed to get a decent-ish exit, a little bit of a bump there on the exit curb, but we managed to get ahead, get the DRS open. But down this straight, it looks like Stroll's got a bit of engine power then as he comes up back up the inside. We still go side by side as we come into Luffield, and we just about get the job done as we kind of hug the apex then and go chasing after that man Nicholas Latifi. But at the end of the lap, they are both going to come into the pits. We've got another 2 laps to do on these tyres. You can see on the mini-map as well a couple of the other guys in the pits as we drift round the last corner then, and we'll see where we come out. We were P17 as it stood, but we'll just have to wait and see where we come out after our pit stop on lap 14. So in we come then, and we're going to go on to the medium tyres. So wherever we come out, we're going to be on a softer tyre compound than the guys ahead of us. So hopefully we can then go chasing after a couple of positions. So we're in P17, I think down to P18 then, but we're going to see where Albon comes out. There he is as he comes round the T1, and there we are just behind him. So we come out just ahead of Latifi, but Albon, he must have got some sort of undercut or undercut on us as we were busy battling Lance Stroll in our in-lap. But lap 16 then, we catch back up to him on those medium tyres into Luffield, and it just leaves a little gap, so we lunge into it, and he kind of panics a little bit. I think he got a bit scared that I was going to kind of punt him back off after what he did to us, but you know, we've got to be the bigger man here and think about the race. So there we are, back up into P17, back where we were before we went into the pits, and now we can go chasing after Magnussen. But it's still Verstappen who leads then it's now Leclerc in P2 actually. He must have overtaken Russell, then it's Hamilton, and then it looks like Perez, he's got Sainz and Norris in that pit stop shuffle. and then behind them you've got Alonso in that Renault, and then also Pierre Gasly still in the points, so it's really nice to see Jaguar up in the points positions. But on the end of lap 17 then, Russell is looking to get back past Leclerc. He has the DRS open, going into Stowe, up the inside, and we see that move again from the AI, and George Russell gets the move done on Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc needs some good results as well, because he's kind of at the back of the grid on, or at least behind all these kind of top teams in terms of championship points. But on the very next lap, it's a bit of a role reversal then, as it's now Leclerc with the DRS. He goes back up the inside of George Russell, and Leclerc once again is back up into P2. So a bit of a battle brewing here, as we also have Ocon in the Renault. He's caught up to Pierre Gasly as the two Frenchmen go side by side into Stowe, and Ocon's actually going to go round the outside. Gasly tries to fight back, but I don't think there's very much he can do against that Renault that's obviously a little bit higher on the performance comparison chart. But we're going to fold on to lap 20 then, and once again we have Russell, this time into Abbey at T1, and they're going to go side by side as they come into farm, and there's Hamilton, he's kind of lurking behind as well, watching this happen, as Russell and Leclerc kind of trade blows as they scrap for position. And Russell, as he comes round the left-hander, going to squeeze Leclerc in a little bit there. That's going to ruin Leclerc's exit. And here comes Lewis Hamilton then, round the outside of Charles Leclerc and possibly George Russell as they go side by side, coming into Luffield. Hamilton's got the inside line. Russell round the outside, still side by side. But it is Hamilton in the end who's just going to get ahead, and he's going to get into P2 of his home Grand Prix. So two Brits on the podium here in Silverstone. That'd be amazing to see. But as we come down this back straight then, we've got Hamilton. He doesn't have DRS now, Russell does, and Russell's going to come back at him side by side around Stowe, but Hamilton just manages to defend and hold on as Russell has another look at him, but he's got to keep an eye on his mirrors because he's got Charles Leclerc in that bright red Ferrari right behind him, and now Leclerc's going to be looking for a way past the both of them if he can. But it's Hamilton in P2 then, Russell rounds off the podium and Leclerc close behind. Back to our race though, it were a very quiet kind of few laps. We had about 10 laps left of the race to close down about 7 seconds to Magnussen, and as we come on to lap 24, those softer compounded tyres really helping us out. Obviously that Andretti Haas car higher than us on the performance chart, but with softer tyres it negates that. And as we come into the closing laps then, once again on this back straight, we're going to close up to Magnussen, up the inside of Stowe, and it's going to be a nice and easy overtake for us in the end, and that's going to be up into P16, so not exactly an amazing position, but I think it's the best we can really do now. We have 3 seconds to Tsunoda, and we have 2 laps to get it, so yeah, with the tyre wear I don't think that's going to be possible, unfortunately. As we come on to the last lap then, Magnussen did stick with us, obviously sticking in our DRS, we're kind of pulling him along, but both our tyres were going off, and in the end it is just going to be P16 for us. So yeah, not an amazing race by any means. I think it was Albon on the second lap who really ruined everything for us, so a bit disappointing for us home Grand Prix. But it's Verstappen who gets a driver of the day, and let's see what his podium looks like then.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So it is Verstappen who wins in the end then. Russell actually on P2, so he must have re-overtook Hamilton. I think I missed that. And then Hamilton in P3, so the Mercedes do hold off that Ferrari of Leclerc. But Verstappen really kind of pulling away in this championship, so if the other top drivers aren't careful, it could be a kind of a real-life Formula 1 season 2.0, although you have to say Mercedes are looking a lot stronger in our alternate universe. As for us, yeah, less than ideal. Gasly does score a point in that that Jaguar car. Alonso scoring points as well, that's quite important for him. But for us it's pretty dismal really down in P16. Nissan did pretty well I think to beat out the Williams and the Toyota, as again that Toyota's higher than us on the performance chart, so yeah, I think Nissan did alright there. But let's have a look at the standings. Verstappen now 29 points clear of George Russell, who's second in the championship. Then it's Hamilton and Sainz. We're still P6 in the constructors, P9 in the drivers, but Jaguar do close up to us with that extra point. So we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy it, hit like, hit subscribe. I'd very much appreciate that. And I'll see you all in the next one.